quarterback's coach, Tyler Allen. Questions for Coach Allen? Great.
So Tyler, start with, you've obviously been here. You know the situation a little bit, though, bump up in position. But does that help that you already know Garrett and Nico?
Oh, for sure. So my relationship with Garrett and Nico has gone on for a long time now. I've known Garrett since 2018. So I was a GA at Troy, and when Coach Brown hired me, we were recruiting Garrett when he was at Charles High School in Tallahassee. So we were recruiting him. So we had him on campus a bunch at Troy. So I've known him since 2018. So we're going on, 6 years now that I've built a relationship with him. And I was here when he got here. And then about 2 months in, I left to take the QB job at Jacksonville State. And coming back, really just picked up where we left off. And, he's been here since I've been back and everything. And so really just picked up from there. And I've really been a key piece in, in our relationship, me and him, and really just his development over the years. So it really was an easy transition over. And then Nico, too. Nico was a freshman whenever I came back. He had just been here for a semester when I had come back. And so we spent some time together, a lot of time together then, really just developing him mentally. And he's really taken a step this last few months mentally in his development.
Sometimes when you're a younger coach, even not a full-fledged assistant, they may not view you as the same. Now that you're up in their leadership role, has your role changed with them? Have they accepted that you now are in charge?
Yeah, so really, it's not really changed much, honestly. Like I had a position room before. We were very successful where I was before. The first year I was a quarterback's coach and had an all-conference quarterback. Very blessed for that. He was very talented. And then coming back, the knowledge that I had and was able to use to develop them. And really, one thing I try to do is make it really simple for them. And just the simplicity of it all, and really breaking it down of like what they need to do mentally through the game, and then mechanics-wise, feet, and all that stuff too. Really, that's just been developed over time. And since I've gotten back, it's really never really was a change. And now it's just everything that I wanted to do. If me and Coach Reagan had different opinions on stuff, it was obviously what he wanted to do. And now it's all what my decisions and what I want to do development-wise and all that. So. Really, that was an easy transition that the guys were super excited about. Mm-hmm.
We hear a lot from Coach Brown. Even Garrett's talked about how, and you could even look at the stat, he wants to increase his completion percentage. He wants to be more accurate, play smarter. What do you think he needs to work on, and what goes into doing that, aside from completing the pass?
No doubt.
Easier said than done.
So he's been getting all this PFF hype and all this hype on Twitter, how great he is. Well, he's got a lot to improve on, and he can make a huge jump. And we know that. He knows that. Like, he was the 101st quarterback in the country in completion percentage at 53%. And that's the obvious thing. Well, the not obvious thing is whenever, come this past January, we sat down, I made him go get a whole cut-up of all of his bad throws and his good throws from this year. And we went through and watched them together, and I took notes with him sitting next to me. We watched every bad throw of what was wrong, and what showed up consistently of things that were wrong. And there was a few things, and some of them that I'll say is his drop mechanics were different every time. He was in an inconsistent base every time. So really on that intermediate quick game throwing, his feet were inconsistent every time. So one thing we're really focusing on this spring is a consistent drop. If you watch him throw a hitch last season, three hitches, there are probably 3 different drops that he took. And his feet were inconsistent every time. He was shuffling, so different things. So really getting his drops fixed with good, consistent feet where they're in the same place every time. So that was one thing, really focusing on. Another key improvement is a lot of people say how great he was down the field at throwing the ball. Well, he also missed a lot of stuff that's on him. If you think of the bowl game versus North Carolina, we throw a post to Traylon Ray, and the corner's on top of him, but there's nobody in the middle of the field. So what we're working on now is throwing guys open. So instead of him where he threw the ball over the corner where we can't run through that guy, now we're really going to throw the ball in the middle of the field where he's trailing, can separate from the corner and now go catch and score. So different things of just like things that like I've got to teach him, and then we go out on an individual drills and I come up with drills to work those two different types of throws. When he gets to the top of the drop, hey, the corner's capped or the receiver's winning. He's got to make two different types of throws down the field. That way we can, complete more balls and have more bigger plays. Because there was some balls this year too down the field where they were catch tackles, and on just post balls or anything crossing the field. And we're really working on ball placement and really throwing guys open or our receivers can separate from the defender, catch and go score. That's another one. And then touch on the ball. Touch on the ball is another one. So really not throwing. He's got a really strong arm, but he lacks some touch on it. So that's another one we're working. We've got drills to fix that as well. But really and then some stuff when he's falling off. So we're working pressure in the pocket where he's having to move and still make accurate throws where he's not falling off and being inaccurate. He had a really tough time when he was working to the left being inaccurate. So those are really some key points. There's a few other things we're working on, but he obviously had a great year, but like we feel like he is good enough to turn that into something even like better. He should be top in the country. And he knows that, and he knows he's got a lot to improve on. So,
what led you into becoming a coach? I mean, when you were at Mississippi, junior college, were you thinking back then, hey, this is something I'd like to work with other guys? What pushed you?
Yeah, no doubt. So, I've known for a long time I wanted to coach. Even like back in high school, in my off time, I just liked helping younger people when it came to like developing in sports. So like even when I was in high school, I think I was a junior in high school. One of my little brother's friends' mom asked me to come help coach their soccer team, and it was so just like anything like that I enjoyed doing, like teaching the game. So I've known for a long time I wanted to coach, and then playing junior college. Actually, I tore up my elbow, and it was a decision whether to get surgery or start coaching. And I had an opportunity where I interviewed with Cam Cameron at LSU, and he hired me to come finish my undergrad, but really be the QB GA, but in my undergrad because they didn't have a quarterback's GA at the time. So I really got to really jumpstart my career because of that, and so I was there at LSU for 2 years. And the first year when Cam Cameron, he hired me, he ended up getting fired. And then I worked for Matt Canada, and both of them were great to me. Really, like everything a GA does here, I was doing as a student there. So that really jump-started my career,
You mentioned Garrett and his needs. Nico, tell us what you're trying to work with Nico on.
So, yeah, we do the same thing with Nico. We sat down and so Nico really he's never been, I don't want to say never been coached, but like the mental part of the game, like from when he was in high school, was all about looking at receivers, okay? And it gets him in trouble a lot of times because at this level you can't just look at a receiver. The safety's going to come over and he's going to throw a pick, and you saw that at times, and we see it in practice. Well, he's gotten over the last few months that I've really spent a ton of time with him on. He's like the first 2 days of practice. Now today we took a little step back, and all the quarterbacks did, but our first 2 days of practice, we looked like a whole different group. And in that first day, I know most of y'all know that Garrett was not here, so Nico got to really take the team over, and he had a great day. And his eyes were in windows. His eyes were looking at safety. So really it's a lot more film study. And he's really starting to come around of like, how do you sit there and watch film as a quarterback? And so really reading defenses, seeing safeties, and he's really come a long way and anticipating throws, And then the other thing is, like, I'm honest and truthful with these guys. When like we meet, like I tell them the truth. I don't leave anything out. So like one thing with him was, look, man, we had 10 sacks this year, all right? You started 2 games and had 5 of them. Okay, so that's one thing we got to fix. All right, like you and Garrett had the same amount of sacks, and you only started 2 games. He started 11. So like that's another thing we got to fix, and a lot of it has to do with starting with what I talked about to begin with, is actually reading a defense and seeing that stuff. And he's finally coming around to, like, he sees it now, and he knows how to do it now, and when he does it right, he's confident in it. And then being able to throw with people around him, like where if the pocket's like collapsing a little bit, still being able to stick in there and make a throw, and then knowing when to run too, or when to throw the ball away. So those are some things where we're working in drill work where we've got people around him where he's got to feel a presence and still make an accurate throw while he's moving in the pocket. And it shows up. Like all of our drill work's showing up. Like Wednesday in practice on film, you see him take a drop and the pocket's collapsing a little bit. And he moves, steps up, and makes a great throw, and is an explosive play. And like so, he's really coming along, and I think it's showing. It's showing on the field.
How did you first get connected with Neil?
So it's funny too. He actually just texted me. Matt Canada. I came in for practice. I had a text from him. So when I was at LSU in 2017, we actually got beat by Troy when he was at Troy, and Matt Canada was our coordinator, and that's who I worked for. And when Matt got fired from LSU in December 17, all right, actually Ogeron said that I couldn't be there anymore either because I was his guy at the time. Like I did everything. Like I was Canada's guy. So I was working for free, and Ogeron pretty much fired me. So I got fired before I even got paid a dime. And Matt Canada was like, "That's bullshit." Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on this, but I have to cut that out. But and he was like, "I'll do anything for you if you need me, call anything." And I was actually at the coaches convention, and I ran into someone saying that a GA job at Troy was coming open. So Matt called Neil for me, and they interviewed me, and they hired me. So we were there for 11 months. I was there for 11 months before we came up here.
Neil talked about how you help in recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
How do you take a story like Nico, one that's a lot of patience and maturity, and kind of use that as a selling point to quarterbacks?
Yeah, so I don't know if I can say recruit's name, but we had a big-time, like, number 2 quarterback in the country in 26 here on Monday, and really just talking about our development and what we do in like QB school and stuff, a whole development process, and where Nico's come, and really taking like, hey, like, you know, he's got to develop in these areas mentally, and this is how we do it, all right? But I can see, like, on that kid, I was like, look, but I can see you already do this on film. So, like, you're going to be a step ahead. But we use the whole development process really with all the guys, how we've developed Garrett and how I'm developing Nico and all that stuff. And every year it's changing, but we have a whole plan of it's a calendar. Every day is scheduled out, detailed out of exactly what we're going to work. And there's a mental piece of it and an on-field, footwork, all that stuff. And I use that in recruiting a lot. Like, about to go in a second, meet with another 26 quarterback, and we're going to go over, our development plan in the off season. And I'm going to show them how it changes every year from the year before, what we had, and then now that I'm the full-time position coach, like the different things that we're going to do to each person's needs. Because everyone's different, and like that's one thing I'm about too, is like we're not going to go out there and do the same drills every year or every day. Like everyone's got different things that we need to relate to the game. And Garrett's different from Nico, and they're going to do the same drills, but they're going to be tailored to where we're both getting good work of what's going to relate directly to the game. And we use all that in recruiting too. Mm-hmm.
How much does it help Nico in his development that you can point to Garrett, as a guy that took time to develop? And, in today's world, guys want to leave after a year if they're not playing. And you have two guys that kind
of. There's no doubt. So, yeah, Garrett waited his time, and it worked out for him. And that's easy to sell that to Nico and stuff. But then again, they're all different. And, Nico understands, like, I'm so honest with him, like, you got to understand, like, where you need to grow at. And he's gotten so much better the last 2 months. And it's like it showed, like, the first 2 days of practice, like that Monday and Wednesday, he was lighting it up. Like, his decision-making, like, numbers were, like, in the 90 percentile after grading it all. Now, today, we all took a step back a little bit, but those first 2 days, he was killing it. it all has to do with just like he's been here longer. He understands the offense now. So now it's that next step of like, all right, the defense, and he's really getting his eyes in windows on safeties, and it's going to just limit all the negative plays, and his decision making has gone just skyrocketed.
How different is the spring for you, even though obviously you're in a newer role now, a promoted role, but there's no quarterback competition this year for the first time in a couple years here. Nico, even though he's the backup, he won a big game last year. He's played in games. The numbers weren't there, but he did get a brawl victory. How's that different than where you and Sean even were last year in the spring, because you don't have to go through as many steps probably?
It's definitely different. It's different in all kind of aspects. Like, because at one point, you got to make sure you're going to name a guy, but you can't really lose one either. So it's a lot of stuff that you're moving pieces around, and because they're both really good players, and it's completely different this year. Obviously, we know that Garrett's a starter, but Nico's like, the thing for Nico was like, he's one play away, like knock on wood, but he's one play away from playing. I mean, it happened last year. There was Garrett, had to come out, and Nico, it's time to go, man. It's time to go. And my thing to him is like, there can't be a drop off. Like it's got to be better. When you go in, like, we're better. I mean, that's just what it's got to be. So, like, how do you get to there? Well, like, teaching him, like, how to be a quarterback, man. You've got to be up here all day. You're basically a sixth offensive coach. Like, you got to be in the building all day. That's just what part of being a quarterback is. Like, you've got to study so much film where you know exactly what they're going to do. And, you've got to be able to, if someone's wrong, fix it on the field and let's go. Like, you got to understand it so much and be up here so much that there's no drop off, and we're going. So the thing to him is really just preparing every day like you are the guy and you're going to go take that first snap at Penn State, because you never know what's going to happen. So
how often, if any, do you think about where you might be if Canada hadn't reached out to you?
Oh yeah, so it's crazy, honestly. Yeah, I mean, actually, I would have went to Maryland because Canada actually ended up getting the OC job at Maryland about a month later, and he offered it to me, and I was already at Troy. Not many people know that, and I ended up staying at Troy instead of going, and it was going to be like double the money, and Power 5 compared to Group of 5, but my big thing was like, all right, I need to get in another network. So I was able to get in a lot of networks at a young age, so yeah, it could be completely different. It could be completely different. So.
Before the blowing your elbow out, were you on a D1 trajectory?
Out of high school, I was really too small, honestly. I was like 150 pounds out of high school, but South Alabama was Bryant Vincent there. He's the head coach at Monroe now, ULM. But he always told me like he was gonna take me after JUCO and stuff, and as long as I was able to get bigger, and I got to like 170, and it just wasn't happening. So, and then after, I hurt my elbow, and then my shoulders all messed up. It was like, okay, I could either, I had chances to go like walk on or go play or at a Group of 5 or go play FCS, and then it was like more like, all right, what do I really want to do? Am I going to play in the NFL at 170 pounds? Probably not. And I had a great opportunity to go to, and actually grew up, like my hometown's based St. Louis, Mississippi, but it's on the state line in Louisiana, and all my family's from Louisiana. So like I grew up an LSU fan, so it was actually really cool to have the opportunity to go coach there. We actually had season tickets to LSU growing up. So it was actually a really cool opportunity to go there, and it really, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So that was cool, but yeah, so because LSU's like an hour and 45 minutes from my house, and all those Mississippi schools, my brothers actually went to them, but they're like 5 hours away. So
I'm sure you're telling Garrett too, hey, I heard I'm too small, you're too small deal.
Oh yeah,
Helping
no
your
doubt.
career.
Now Garrett's arm talent's way better than mine ever was, but yeah, we talk a bunch about it all. Yeah, and then times have changed too. Now, shoot, it don't matter how big you are, as long as you can play. And if you can run around and you can play, it don't matter how big you are nowadays.
Tyler, one last one for me then. Other quarterbacks. So give me a look at Sean Boyle and some of the others that you're dealing with. What do you think of them?
Yep. So Sean, Sean and Scotty, we're letting them get a lot of the, we're trying to get them a lot of reps this spring. We really got to see, we got to see who can be that number 3. So we kind of do have a little quarterback battle there, and both those guys, they've got to come along, and we got to see like who can be a guy where if stuff hits the fan, like one of y'all can go in and go win a football game. Go function the offense and go win the football game. So really, this spring is one where we're really trying to figure that out. And they're going to continue to get more reps, and they've got to prove that one of them can do that, so we can have a true number 3. So.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, for sure. Thank y'all.